Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of PEM Rules, the Pediatric Emergency Medicine podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Yaron Ivan, and today I'm going to talk about something that I love doing in the Pediatric Emergency Medicine department. I call it my newborn talk to young parents in the emergency department. So every once in a while, I get a newborn in the Pediatric Emergency department with chief complaint, whatever it may be, and I can tell by the age of the parents that this is probably their first child. Often those parents are very anxious. They have a lot of questions. So over the years, I developed this newborn talk with some important points that I want parents to know about raising a newborn, some things that I find important, and some things that over the years they've had a lot of questions about. So I always address the acute concern, whatever it may be, the chief complaint. And I always ask the parents, Mom and Dad, if this is your first child, would you mind if we take 5 or 10 minutes to talk about some important things about raising a newborn? Usually the response I get is a very enthusiastic yes. Parents are very eager to learn more, and they seem quite eager to have a private session with a pediatric emergency doctor. Why not? So I usually start by saying something humorous like, welcome to Parenthood. It's not a very easy life, but it's all fun. Your baby is very cute. I hope you enjoy it. Just a few things that I think are important for new parents to know. So the first thing, Mom and Dad, I want you to know that if the baby ever feels warm, I highly recommend you check the temperature in the buttocks, which is nothing to be worried about. My nurse can show you how to do that. And if the temperature is more than 100.4, you got to come and see us. In this age, most infections are viral and are really no big deal, but we kind of treat every infection as a big deal until proven otherwise. So if little Johnny feels warm, please check his temperature. If the temperature is more than 100.4, you're more than welcome to call your doctor, but I highly recommend you come and visit us in the pediatric emergency department. Most of the time, it's a false alarm, it's a little virus, and the baby's going to be fine. Also, Mom and Dad, please make sure every time you put the baby to sleep, you gotta put him on their back. At some point, the baby's going to be old enough to roll, which is great, but you should always put him on his back. Back to sleep is a very important campaign, as you guys know, that has significantly reduced the prevalence of sudden infant death syndrome. Next, Mom and Dad, I want you to know that some babies, many babies, spit up a lot. Little Johnny or little Maggie is allowed to spit up as much as she wants, as long as it's never bloody or never green. If it's white, whitish, or whatever the color of the formula is, that's okay. If your baby ever vomits green stuff or bloody stuff, I want you to come and see us in the pediatric emergency department as soon as possible. Now, with regards to the formula, Mom and Dad, I want you to know that whatever formula your baby takes and he or she are growing, not vomiting blood, not vomiting green, that's the right formula for your baby. I don't recommend you go on what I call the formula roulette and keep changing formula back and forth. Gentle ease, gentle super ease, gentle extra super ease, for the most part, are all the same. If the baby is growing, not vomiting blood, not vomiting green, that is the right formula for your baby. Of course, I always recommend breastfeeding over formula, but that is just too challenging for some moms. I would say, though, that if you ever notice that your baby has blood in the stool, that could be an indication that the baby needs a special formula. Come and see us in the pediatric emergency department or contact your primary care. It's not really a big deal, just some babies are allergic to one of the proteins in the formula, so they need a special formula, and the blood in the stool essentially stops and everything goes back to normal. So blood in the stool, vomiting blood, vomiting green, certainly a reason to see us in the pediatric emergency department. Now also, Mom and Dad, sometimes when the baby is sick with just a little cold, it seems like they're not really getting a lot of the bottle and maybe a little dehydrated. If you're seeing fewer wet diapers, that could be a reason to worry. Feel comfortable, Mom and Dad, to give your son some Pedialyte, but I want to make sure you never give the baby water. Water is not allowed for little babies. It can actually cause some serious problems. Pedialyte is okay for a day or two, but keep in mind, it doesn't really have any nutrition, so for a day or two, fine, but you should resume the formula as soon as. Next, Mom and Dad, very, very important that you follow up with the primary care, and I want you to know that the single most important indicator that your baby is healthy is weight gain. So whatever symptom your baby has, if they're gaining weight, it's very unlikely that there's anything serious. And primary cares are very, very good about following the weight gain and making sure the baby is gaining his weight. So I totally understand that sometimes it looks like little Maggie is speeding up a lot, crying a lot, or having some problems, but if she's gaining weight, it's very unlikely there's anything serious going on. I usually ask at some point if anybody smokes in the house, and whether I get a yes or a no, I move on to the next point, which is nobody is allowed to smoke near their baby. And if somebody does want to smoke, they have to smoke outside. When they come back to the house, if they want to hold the baby, they gotta wash their hands and change their shirt. Very important for the baby to have no exposure to cigarette smoking whatsoever. I also want you to know, mom and dad, that getting your baby vaccinated is very important. Starting at the age of 2 months, you're going to have frequent visits to your primary care, and it's going to look like little Maggie is getting a lot of shots. It's totally fine. Those vaccines are very important and over the years have prevented some serious infections. I highly recommend you follow the vaccine schedule with your primary care and make sure you get little Maggie all the vaccines she needs. If it's flu season, I make sure the parents know that although the patient may be too young to get the flu shot, you can only get the flu shot after 6 months of age, but everybody around him, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, should get the flu shot in order to not give him or her the flu. I also talk to the parents about fever beyond the neonatal period, which is a very normal response by the body, which is really nothing to worry about. Generally speaking, mom and dad, if your baby has fever but is breathing comfortably, wetting the diapers, there's really not a whole lot to worry about. For the most part, in a vaccinated baby, that number you're seeing on the thermometer is not very meaningful. I do recommend that if the baby has high fever, you let the fever be if the baby is comfortable. So if the baby is 102, 103, but you saw the pediatrician and nothing was found, and he's comfortable, you don't have to treat the temperature. If the baby is comfortable, taking fluids, breathing seems to be fine, there's nothing to worry about that number. That is especially true after the age of 6 months, when your baby got all the 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months vaccines, which are very important in preventing serious diseases. I'm referring to PCV13, Hib, and all the other ones. Next, mom and dad, I want you to know that it's very important you never give your baby any over-the-counter cough and cold medications. Especially during the winter, kids get a lot of cough, a lot of runny nose, and for the most part, there's really no effective treatment, and some of those medications can be very problematic and not safe for kids. The only thing I do recommend for your baby, if they're stuffy and having difficulty feeding and sleeping, is saline in the nose and suctioning the nose. Please avoid any Bromfed, Sudafed, Coldies, or any other medications, especially for newborns. Very important. Lastly, mom and dad, I want to talk to you about your baby's bowel habits. There's something I call the rule of 7. Newborns can have 7 bowel movements a day or no bowel movement for 7 days. For them, that is very normal, as long as not vomiting blood, not vomiting green, and growing. So don't be afraid and don't be concerned if your baby hasn't pooped in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days. If everything else checks out fine, there's really nothing to worry about. Many babies don't poop every day. That is totally fine. And that is it, guys. That is my newborn talk to new parents in the pediatric emergency department. Just some things I kind of collected over the years that I think are important for parents to know. Obviously, there could be many more that I missed. And if you have any ideas for what I should put in the newborn talk, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. You can contact me via the website at pemrules.com. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you like the police.